and welcome to my channel. Today I finally have another nail art for you. Yes, I know it's been like more than years. So yeah, let's get started. Now, back in the day, you might remember if you've been subscribed to my channel for literally ages. I used to do nail art, and I used to do the series of fairy tale nail arts, and I painted stuff on my nails. Back then I also did it on my natural nails, later I did it on acrylic nails as well. But I finally bought tips, so I can just very easily make long nails without having to spend 12 hours on my nails, because I have a full-time job now and I don't have time for that. Anyway, I decided to go back to the painting on my nails sort of nail art, but instead of fairy tales I'm now moving on to myths and legends. My dad has this entire series of books, they're by Time Life books, all about myths and legends. It's called Het Rijk der Fabelen, so like the world of fables, translated in English. He has those books, but I stole them, and now I'm just going to grab a book every now and then, pick 3 different fables and make a nail art out of it. And we're gonna start off today with the story of Manannan, which I'm probably pronouncing completely wrong, so if you know how to pronounce it, feel free to like tell me in the comments. In text, so I still won't know how to say it. Try to explain it if you know how to pronounce it, because I would like to know. Anyway, he was the protector of the Isle of Man, and he was also a descendant of the Tuatha de Danann, which I'm also probably pronouncing way wrong. But it's the Irish name, the old Irish name for the fairy folk. So yeah, even though like the part of the series, the book series that I'm talking about right now is wizards and witches, for some reason, yeah, well, you know, he could do magic, so they probably also categorized him as a wizard, even though he was also technically a descendant of a magical fairy folk. Yeah. Anyway, so he could do magic, and that is basically the point of most of the legends about him. Like I said, he protected the island with power over the weather. Pretty handy. He could conjure up mists to make enemies get lost, and storms to make them horrifically drown. Or chase them away, I suppose. That's also possible if they got away in time. Also, if there were wood splinters in the water, he could turn them into full-fledged warships, and he could also multiply his soldiers. So like if he had like 5 soldiers and he needed 100, then he could just make 100 or 1,000. I don't know if there was a limit to how many he could make at once. Like, there's also no explanation at all as how we did it. Like, there are stories actually that wizards had to sing to make things happen, but that sounds a bit like, imagine making a movie about it and like in the middle of a war scene they would have to break out this song to make their magic work. It would be funny, but also kind of strange. And also he was very useful in peacetime as well, because he had cows that could unendingly deliver milk to people, and he had fishes that could just multiply as well and serve as food. And also, this is kind of creepy, but he also had pigs, and if a pig got slaughtered for food, then the bones would suddenly grow into a new pig. Like, it sounds handy, but like I wouldn't don't try to visualize that in your head, because I wouldn't want to see it, because it sounds like it looks terrifying. But still, I mean, I suppose it's still handy, as long as you don't have to watch it happen. And also he occasionally taught people a lesson, like most mythical beings and stuff like that, and wizards and witches. Well, witches usually just punish people, or like, you know, did things for their personal gain. But anyway, he was a wizard and he taught people lessons sometimes. One of such stories is a story about how he taught a really grumpy king a lesson. Like, the king was overall a good guy, but he was very grumpy, and he also really disliked women. He thought they were annoying, and like they always wanted stuff and they were nagging him, and he also included his wife in his dislike of women. Which brings us to the story. Basically, to teach him a lesson, Manannan, again probably pronouncing it wrong, let a boy walk by with a, well, basically it was a twig with apples on it, but the apples were made of silver, and they basically functioned like bells, and they made a lovely sound, which the king heard, and then he was like, I want that. So he asked the boy how much it would cost him to buy the twig with the apples, and branch with apples is called a branch, right? Anyway, the branch of apples, and the boy was like, it'll cost you your wife and children. At which point normal people will probably be like, okay, you creep me the heck out, I'm out of here. But the king was like, yeah, seems fair. And he just, you know, bought the branch with the silver apples and paid with his wife and children. Now, they said at the beginning that the king was actually a good guy, but I sort of kind of doubt it, honestly, because it took him a full year to miss his wife. No mention of the children, by the way. Like, there's nothing mentioned in the book whether or not he actually bothered to miss his children. But at least he missed his wife, eventually, after a full year. And then finally got around to looking for her. At which point, of course, he encountered Manannan, and Manannan's wife, who he probably treated a lot better than the king did his wife, and had a talk with him and had dinner with them, and like, you know, they just talked, and eventually the king did admit that he missed his wife a lot, and Manannan knew he was telling the truth, so he got his wife back and his children back, and he also got to keep the branch with the silver apples. So yeah, for the king it actually ended really well. I mean, it does show that, like, you know, there was like a gentle wizard type of character, because in a lot of myths then the people who get taught a lesson either end up dead or mutilated or just horrifically maimed for the rest of eternity, or they just have their entire lives destroyed forever. While this guy, he got away with his wife, his children, and the branch of silver apples that he really wanted, so really he got off really well. So yeah, but anyway, that is a well-known story about Manannan and what he did in his existence. What he also did in his existence, which is what I'm painting on my nails, is he rode his horse over the sea, because his horse could run on water, and he also had this harness that was completely untouchable, like he could not be harmed by anything. Well, nuclear bombs weren't like invented yet, but still, like, nothing could harm him as long as he was wearing the harness, which he was always wearing, of course, because, you know, convenience and all. And how did he went to the loo? I have no idea. The story doesn't mention that either. Yeah, I made him wear a helmet, by the way, because I wasn't confident enough in my own skills of painting after a year to bother painting a human face, so that's why he's wearing a helmet. He also had a sword, and if the sword touched you and you were his enemy, then you would be instantly dead. Which seems like a really useful thing for video games, incidentally. And yeah, that's basically what I decided to paint on my nails. That scene. Also, in more technical terms, the way I did this painting is I'm just using acrylic paint as always, like I used to do before as well. Buffed the false nail, the nail tip, painted the background onto that, waited for it to dry 100% completely before applying acrylic on top of it. Then I forgot to file the acrylic actually, but I really should have, but you know. Anyway, and then painted the character on top of that, so you sort of get a 3D effect in it. It'll be more visible in a moment when I've applied, you know, top coat and all on top of it. But yeah, and also I applied highlights after letting the rest of the paint dry completely, so you really get these nice bright highlights, because if you apply the highlights while the paint is still wet, it's just going to all mix together. And I'm not sure if it was necessary, but I just did it to be safe. I didn't put the paint all the way to the edges, not the background, and also not the character, to the edges of the nail, just to make sure that the acrylic had enough like clean space to cling on to the part below it, and the top coat as well. So that's why I also am painting a little bit of a border around the character, just to make sure that it doesn't just end somewhere randomly. I'm just painting a little bit of a border to make it look more complete. After that I added the top coat, and that leaves us with the final result. I'm actually really pleased with it, especially considering, like, okay, let's be real here, it's not perfect, but I haven't painted all my nails in like years, so I'm actually quite pleased with how this turned out. I hope you like it as well. If you did enjoy this video, please click the like button, and if you want to see more, you can always subscribe to my channel. For now, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!